When Bill Clinton was elected president 2 centuries later, the white share still stood at 87%. But get this, in the 28 subsequent years... Ben, I cannot get enough of this Mayor Rahm Emanuel. This PC ad in Politico is so good.
That's really well done. I got to give you a lot of credit for that. Caught me off guard, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't tell me he was going to do that. He's been up all night reading the Rahm Emanuel Political piece. Gets better and better with each reading.
So good. I mean, you just read it that one time. I think you should give it another look over. I think you'll...
I'll read it. I've been reading White Tiger, pretty good novel, but I'll put White Tiger to the side and I'll read Rahm Tiger. How about that?
Oh, there you go. It's kind of like the band Styx. The more you keep listening to it, the more you start to get it. I think that's kind of what it is with Rahm. These opinion pieces. You know what I mean? Give it a second chance, Ben. Come on.
I'm trying to think of a Styx song that I know. I know one. I can hear it in my mind, but I can't. You know how that happens, D? I hear it in my head, but I can't articulate it. It happens so much with me in music.
Kamakori Gato, Mr. Roboto. I think that's a Styx song, Mr. Roboto. Isn't that a song?
I'm not sure. It's "Come Sail with Me." Come sail with. Is that Styx or Queen?
That's Styx.
Okay, come on. Am I the man or am I the man?
We'll find out shortly. We just started. All right, your Ben Joravsky show for Friday, January 29th is just moments away. But before we do this, we need to thank our sponsors for bringing you the Ben Joravsky show. SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana. Their sponsors, brand new sponsors. Thanks, SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana. Hope you're enjoying your time with us here on the Ben Joravsky show. The Chicago Federation of Labor are sponsors, as well as Chicago Reader. Go subscribe to the Chicago Reader, by the way, chicagoreader.com, for all things there is to know about the city of Chicago. Go check out the Chicago Reader. And our host has a column once a week on Chicago Reader. You knew that. Go check it out, chicagoreader.com. All right, your song of the day comes from Frank, and it is "Give Peace a Chance" by John Lennon.
Love John Lennon. Love that song. All we are saying, come on, D, sing along, is give peace a chance. Dennis will take it from here. Go.
Give peace a chance. I don't know. I got nothing.
Oh my God. Did John Lennon just come back to life and become my producer? Really great job, D.
The Ben Joravsky show starts now. It is Friday, January 29th, and live from my apartment and his attic, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, it's another Rummana Rundown with Chicago Sun-Times editor, Rummana Hussain. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this GameStop Friday, and here's why. Spent the better part of last night following the ongoing soap opera saga of the stock trading scandal known as GameStop Gate. Here are the details. In the old days, stocks could only be purchased or sold through brokerage firms, which required a fee per transaction. But that's so 90s. Nowadays, you can make transactions through apps like Robinhood, which charge no fees. So you might say they've democratized the markets. Over the last few days, thousands and thousands and thousands of small investors have gathered together on internet sites, chat sites, swapping intel and good buys, and they decided to throw their money behind GameStop, a heretofore sleepily and barely in business electronic games company that sells products the old-fashioned way in malls. We're in a pandemic. Who goes to malls? Exactly. That's why it's a sleepy, barely in business company. Anyway, the frenzy to invest in GameStop drove up the cost of its stock. Keep in mind, this has nothing to do with the value of the business because, let me repeat, who goes to malls? But as the young investors are learning, there's not always a correlation between the cost of its stock and its value. And you can make a lot of money if you buy low and sell high, as they say, even if the business isn't that valuable. So this frenzy that sent stock prices soaring, which is actually bad news to powerful investors like huge hedge fund conglomerates. Why? Because they play their own convoluted game called buying short, in which they actually make money if stock prices fall. But with all these small-time investors driving up the price of GameStop, the hedge funds were losing money. Tough luck, you say. That's how it goes in a free market, you say. That shows how little you know about how capitalism works in the United States of America. Hedge funds, gazillionaires may believe in free markets for some poor guy on the West Side, but when it comes to them, it's like, hey, man, give me some socialism. And so someone got Robinhood to stop most transactions of GameStop, which sent the stock prices falling, which brought a little relief to the huge hedge funds, one of which I might add is Citadel, owned by our very own Kenneth Kenny G, the richest man in the state, the guy that funded Bruce Rauner's political campaigns, and most recently paid for the... I'm sorry. And most recently paid for the anti-fair tax commercials that featured Phyllis making up stories about how rising the rates on rich people like Griffin would somehow hurt pensioners on the Northwest Side, and those dummies on the Northwest Side bought it. Sorry, didn't mean to go on that tangent, and I again apologize for voter shaming. Anyway, everyone who was paying attention to what was going on with GameStop was outraged. The market is rigged. The big boys are using their influence to protect their billions and expose everyone else to risk. So much for free markets. AOC, who might add, is freaking brilliant, ladies and gentlemen, weighed in with a tweet. On Twitter, she called for an investigation into Robinhood's actions and said it was, quote, unacceptable. Then Senator Ted Cruz felt compelled to add his 2 cents.
All right, now before you do the Ted Cruz quote, remember, you have a Ted Cruz impression.
I do?
I knew you'd forget. What you do is you just hold your nose. You just hold your nose.
Well, it's really not much. He tweeted, fully agree.
Yeah.
How about that? Fully agree.
Yeah,
that's what he said.
That was good.
He tweeted to AOC like they were pals. You know, like he retweeted her and he goes, fully agree. That prompted AOC to fire back, quote, I am happy to work with Republicans on this issue where there's common ground, but you almost had me murdered 3 weeks ago, so you can't sit this one out. Happy to work with almost any other GOP that aren't trying to get me killed. In the meantime, Ted Cruz, if you want to help, you can resign, prompting me to say, yeah, love you, AOC. Don't let Cruz off the hook. Don't let Cruz try to ride your glory. Anyway, AOC's tweet prompted sobbing from a Texas congressman named Chip Roy. I'm not making that up. Indeed, it's not Chips Ahoy. Although in my mind, it's really hard not to say Chips Ahoy. His name is Chip Roy, and he used to be an aide to Cruz. And this stuff, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not pretending I knew who Chip Roy was. I learned this all last night while I was spending a lot of time following this developing story. Anyway, he's a former aide to Cruz, as I said, and he's very hurt, very insulted that AOC had hurt Ted Cruz's feelings. And he tweeted out, I asked you to call, he sent a letter to Nancy Pelosi, asking her to call on AOC to immediately apologize and retract her comment, which got me calling Rupert Murdoch. Hey, they're canceling AOC's culture. To which Rupert Murdoch said, cancel culture for thee, not for me. None of that actually happened. It was just in my mind. Anyway, in the middle of this all steps a gentleman named Leon Cooperman. He's a huge hedge fund operator who's worth like gazillions of dollars. And he offered the following explanation, quote, the reason the market is doing what it's doing is people are sitting at home, getting their checks from the government, basically trading for no commissions and no interest rates, end of quote. Had 2 thoughts when I read this comment from Leon Cooperman, who is, as I said, a hedge fund operator worth gazillions and gazillions of dollars. It's an interesting take for a billionaire investor to make. He seems upset because a bunch of people have some disposable income to invest in stock. Well, what else is the market? It's people investing their disposable income so they can make money. Typical Republican response when things don't go their way. Disposable income for me, not for thee. My second thought is, What an interesting take. They were searching for someone to blame this on, a scapegoat, and he discovered the government. Yes, according to Cooperman, what happened is the government's fault because the government doled out money to people that didn't really need it. So these people had disposable income, which they invested in stock. And now look what happened. First of all, let me say the only money the government doled out was like last April. They haven't really set out all the second stimulus checks yet. And the third ones are still very much in the pipeline. So it's like, what was those checks to you? $1,200? It's not like those checks which you distributed in April are still hanging around. The people are investing it in the middle of what, January. I really doubt those checks had anything to do with what went down with GameStop, which reminds me of the Republican Party line back in 2008 when looking for a scapegoat to blame for the collapse of the real estate industry instead of the greed of all the people involved in the collapse. The Republicans settled on blaming black people. They said if only the government hadn't forced banks to give out so many risky loans to so many unworthy borrowers in high-risk, high-crime neighborhoods, this never would have happened. And these gazillionaires will blame anybody to avoid blaming themselves and their own greed. We've got a great show today, everybody. Rummana Hussain will be here from the Chicago Sun-Times. She's not greedy. She's got a lot to say about, I may ask her about AOC, GameStop, and Ted Cruz. I know she has a lot to say about Ted Cruz. A lot of political talk with Rummana, her recommendations, and more. But before we do that, the young man from Alton who made about $1 million on
Did I?
Yes. Like last night, I go, Dennis, could you get me a copy of that interview we did with Samina Mustafa? He goes, Ben, too busy doing my Robinhood investments. My GameStop stock has now, it's over $400 a share. Leave me alone. I'm busy investing. We call them money bags. Dr. D, Dr. Money with the news.
None of those nicknames. No one calls me any of that stuff. I'm Dennis. How's it going, everybody? By the way, Ben, I believe we already broke a New Year's resolution. Putting gate at the end of every story. Come on, man. We said we'd nip that at the bud. You GameStop gate. Come on.
Wait, time out. Did I make that resolution? I don't remember making that resolution. That I made that resolution.
You made that resolution? Yeah, come on. You don't remember?
No, let's redo the whole thing. GameStop, not Gate. Friday, and here's why.
There we go. I'll edit that out. Perfect. How's it going, everybody? Before we find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois for the fourth and final time this week, we need to try our best to get all of you listening to download this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews. Wish us luck. Available this weekend at chicagoreader.com or wherever else you download podcasts. Here's this weekend's lineup starting on Saturday. It's the return of reporter Mark Guarino. Mark was with us, I believe, in August of 2020, and he's back. Ben, tell everybody about our interview.
Mark Guarino is a Washington Post correspondent. He also writes for The Reader. He is a freelance writer for The Reader. For The Reader, he writes music stories. For The Post, he's been covering, Kyle Rittenhouse trial. It's not quite a trial yet, but the criminal prosecution of Kyle Rittenhouse, who was the Antioch teenager, went up to Kenosha this summer and ended up killing two people in the middle of the riot that was going on in Kenosha after the shooting of Jacob Blake. So that trial, Mark takes us A to Z on the trial and how Kyle Rittenhouse has become sort of a folk hero to the far right and who the lawyer is and what their strategies are. And it's pretty interesting stuff. He's been following it. He's interviewed the lawyers for Rittenhouse, and he will be covering the trial as well. So fascinating little discourse on what's going on with the Kyle Rittenhouse trial in Kenosha.
All right, Brianna on the live stream chat. Please don't call me Dr. Money. But that's Saturday. Mark Guarino returns. On to our Sunday interview. Get out the pork steak. It's former downstate congressional candidate Erica Weaver. Ben, tell everybody about your conversation with Erica.
Well, Erica Weaver ran for Congress in the 15th Congressional District against Mary Miller. And after Mary Miller emerged from the weeds, so to speak, with her, quote, Hitler was right comment, unquote, I thought it'd be a good idea just to reach out to Erica Weaver and see, like, who was the person that 15th Congressional District voters could have voted for. So it was an interesting conversation with Erica Weaver, and a lot of it had to do with what Democrats have to do to build support in areas that go for Trump. What are the common grounds of interest, but also just some of the pratfalls of running as a Democrat in areas where the Democrats don't expect to win. Then we get into redistricting. Lord knows what the map is going to look like. The congressional map will look like after redistricting, because I think because of falling populations, Illinois will lose a congressional district. So Erica Weaver could be thrown into the same district as Betsy Dirksen-Londrigan or Danny B in the 16th. I don't know what will happen with the 16th, the 15th, the 14th, the 13th. So get into a little redistricting talk with Erica Weaver as well.
And we got into a little redistricting talk yesterday on the program to help all of those out who kind of get lost in the weeds when it comes to map redistricting. Me. But for others as well, we kind of, ask the basic questions like, hey, what is map redistricting? Go check that out, yesterday's show, to get caught up on all of that. But that's going to be available on Sunday. Former downstate congressional candidate Erica Weaver. On to Monday's interview, it's Congressman Mike Bost.
I'm sick of it. Every year we give power to one person.
That was a joke. It's not Mike Bost.
Yeah, that was a joke, not Mike Bost, although.
On Monday, it's not Mike Bost. No, it's a podcast host. It's activist Chaperl Wells. We're going to be speaking with her after today's show. Now, Ben, I know you haven't done the interview yet, but what do you plan on talking about?
Well, I want to talk about, she does a podcast that has to do, very sad story. Her son was murdered, and so she talks about the criminal justice system and the delays in the investigation and what it's like. We talk about the victims of crimes, what it's like to be the family of someone who's murdered, and just you're caught up. It's really hard for me to imagine what it would be like, but just to get caught up in the investigation, the delays, the frustrations. And so we'll be taking that deep dive, talking about her podcast and what she's discovered in the last year or so. Chaperl Wells. That'll probably drop Monday, right, Dee?
That'll be on Monday. It's this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews. Saturday, reporter Mark Garino. Sunday, former downstate congressional candidate Erica Weaver. And yes, Monday, podcast host Chaperl Wells. Available by 5 a.m. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday at chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Go download them. Go subscribe. Give us a review. 5 stars only. Live stream chat. Please stop calling me Dr. Money. All right, local news. Let's do it.
Dr. Money. I think we have a new nickname.
Jeez.
And I'll tell you what, live stream listeners, this guy, since he got that Robinhood app in his phone, there's no stopping him. He's like an addict. He's like, Ben, I need $1,000. I want to invest in Facebook right now. I need to do it. Bed Bath and Beyond. What? I never even heard of that. Nope. Ben, don't worry about it. The stock is rising now. Quick. I need the money. Okay, here you go.
Find me on Robinhood, everybody. All right. Our coverage of the Chicago Teachers Union continues. But first, well, let's just get this out of the way right now. Now, if you've been listening to this show for the last couple of Fridays, you may have noticed a new segment on the program. A slower paced, not as exciting as the other segment. All right, guys, I'm trying my best to not say it's very boring, but it is. And for some reason, our host, Ben Joravsky, loves it, and he insists we do it every Friday. Yes, listeners, that's right. It's time for our weekly Illinois weather report from state climatologist Trent Ford.
From the Illinois State Water Survey, the University of Illinois Prairie Research Institute, this is Illinois State climatologist Trent Ford.
You are boring.
Temperatures this last week were within a degree or two of average for this time of the year, ranging from the high teens in northwest Illinois to the high 30s in southern Illinois. January month-to-date temperatures range from 1 to 4 degrees above average. Notably, we've seen a lack of very cold nights this month, as minimum temperatures have been 3 to 8 degrees above average. This is consistent with long-term warming trends in winter, which have disproportionately come with increased minimum temperatures.
All right, you know what? We're going to check back in with Trent a little later. It's not enough. My God, why do you like this segment so much?
Well, I find it fascinating that nights are not as cold as they used to be. I didn't realize that, okay, because until I started listening to this Trent Ford segment. The nights are not as cold. Do a little digging, get back to me on that. Stop the day trading for 2 seconds and do a little digging about why nights aren't as cold as they used to be, okay? Put down that Robinhood app right now. No, we're not buying McDonald's stock, okay? Focus, Steve, focus.
More like Trent Board, am I right? All right, hey, let's talk more statewide news, huh? And Republican Illinois Representative Adam Kinsinger, dude, who do you think you're fooling? Yes, we have more on the one Republican in Illinois, or at least that's what he wants you to believe, who spoke against the president ever since the Derp Fest known as the Capital City riots went down. He was even for impeaching the president. Ben, are you there, by the way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Well, yes, I'm still here.
Okay.
It's like, hard to explain this, what I do with the podcast, but when the brown line goes by, I like to turn my mic off.
All right. It just kind of freaks me out. It makes me think you're gone, but I'm glad you're here. All right. So back to Kinsinger, who spoke against the president ever since the Capital City riots went down. He was even for impeaching the president, and now he is the, quote, lone Republican in Illinois. Now, at first, I thought for sure that this fellow was smoking some of that legal Illinois reefer and channeling his inner Bernie Sanders. But, you know, the more I read about this Kinsinger, the more I'm starting to think he's just a grifter, Ben.
What?
The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Lynn Sweet. Once again, Representative Adam Kinsinger on Thursday was the lonely voice, the only Republican to say freshman Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, the QAnon conspiracy booster, should be punished for supporting online threats to execute Democrats and suggesting incorrectly school massacres were, quote, false flag operations. With twice impeached ex-President Donald Trump out of the White House, but retaining his grip on Republicans, Kinsinger told the Chicago Sun-Times, quote, there was a real split for the future of the party, and that epic battle has commenced. And Kinsinger went on here. What a hero this guy is. He says, quote, I'm fine being the only one doing it, or one of just a few. But it would be nice if more people that believe similar to me were vocal about it. GOP House Leader Kevin McCarthy met with Trump in Florida on Thursday to kiss Trump's ring and pick up his pledge to help flip the House to Republicans in 2022. The most prominent Republican in Illinois mentioned as a potential candidate in 2022 for governor or senator, Kinsinger is stepping up his crusade to, quote, restore our GOP. His quest is an outgrowth of his campaign against conspiracy theorists that course adjusted after Trump tried to overthrow the election and his supporters attacked the Capitol on January 6th. So, Ben, how full of shit is this guy?
No, I wouldn't say that. Adam Kinsinger you're talking about?
Yeah.
Wow, where do we start? First of all, I just want to say, just a shout out to the Heartland Mamas will be coming on the show next week. Heidi Henry, Murray Briel. Both Murray Briel was actually ran for Congress in the 16th Congressional District in the Democratic primary in order to eventually challenge Adam Kinsinger. Here's the thing. The Republican Party is completely owned by MAGA. MAGA is controlled by Trump. I've said it many times. I'll repeat it. It's so obvious. So Trump was outrageous. His performance was outrageous on January 6th. It was not excusable in any way. When he gave the speech inciting the insurrection that led to the attack on the Capitol and 5 people killed, including a police officer. So it's really hard to justify anything Donald Trump did in that moment. And yet, I forget what the polls show, but it's 70 to 80% at least of Republicans support Donald Trump to this day, feel as though that the election was fraudulent, even though it wasn't, feel as though he won, even though he didn't. So he has successfully brainwashed them. I don't know what else to say. In the aftermath of Donald Trump's victory in 2016, it's just to open the gates. Marjorie Taylor Greene's behavior is outrageous. The congresswoman from Georgia, anybody who sees the video of her chasing David Hogue down the street, the Parkland school survivor, the young man who became a crusader for gun control in the aftermath of the massacre in Parkland, anyone who sees that, it's hard to reconcile that with rational behavior that you would expect out of a congressperson. I mean, she was just following him down the street, assailing him. Like, he didn't even know who she was. You know, calling him a coward. This is a guy who survived a school shooting. And by the way, he's a First Amendment right to speak his mind. This is what I'm saying about the hypocrisy of the Republican Party when it comes to cancel culture. They're trying to cancel him because they disagree with his position on gun control. So she's walking down the street. She feels like she has a right to walk down the street. You got to see it to believe it. Assailing him, mocking him, taunting him. You know, and he's just walking away just to avoid a confrontation. I really don't know how else to do it. That's what I would have done. I just would have walked away. Well, you're a crazy lady. Anyway, the crazy lady is now a congresswoman. So Adam Kinsinger called her out. I give him credit for calling her out. The fact of the matter is that if you're a congressman of the Republican persuasion and you dare to criticize a MAGA candidate, your future in the Republican Party is in jeopardy. And so if it's a political consideration that Adam Kinsinger has to make, I think he should think long and hard about leaving the Republican Party, becoming an independent, like the congressman in Michigan did, whose name I can't remember. He's too conservative to be a Democrat, apparently, Adam Kinsinger. Like, he believes in Donald Trump's tax issues, or tax policies, cutting taxes on wealthy people. Very curious what is his attitude about GameStop, not Gate it would be, and whether, big capitalists control and rig the market to work in their advantage, as opposed to small investors who come on through Robinhood. Really curious what his thoughts on that.
I'm really curious what his thoughts were on, I don't know, January 5th.
What I mean, his thoughts about
before
he changed his mind before this insurrection?
Yeah, the guy obviously saw a lane here, like, oh, I could be the one Republican in Illinois who's against Trump, right?
Well, he was. Well, see that he was. He was one of the few who spoke out before January 5th, before the January 6th assault. I mean, he was the one in November who was saying, guys, Trump's making this up. We lost. And he's one of the Republicans. If I have an issue with Adam Kinsinger, it's that. Why did you vote for Trump in the first place? He voted for Trump in 2020. That's what he says. He voted for Donald Trump. He thought Donald Trump it was a good idea to reelect Donald Trump. It's kind of my attitude, like I have about the Secretary of State in Georgia, who suddenly woke up and realized that Donald Trump was a bully and who was trying to force him to break the law in order to win the state of Georgia for Trump. So if I have a problem with Adam Kinsinger, it's like, where was he before November of 2020? But he has been pretty consistent. I have to say this. Even before January 6th, he said that Donald Trump was making it up as he went along, that Donald Trump had lost the election, that Donald Trump had made up accusations of fraud, and that he should concede. So he has been pretty consistent. And that's why I remember I got in trouble with Heidi Henry.
That's what I was going to say. Heidi, I'm trying here, but he just loves the guy, apparently.
I got in trouble with Heidi in December because I was praising Kinsinger. This is before January 6th. And then Heidi sent me a text message telling me why Democrats have worked so hard against him. So anyway, Heidi will be coming on, which I'm sure she'll have a lot to say about Adam Kinsinger. So, D, Adam Kinsinger is,
Your
I
favorite
believe,
candidate.
in a no-win position, trying to be the voice of the anti-Trump Republican, because there are very few anti-Trump Republicans. Republicans love Donald Trump. We saw that with Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy, the Republican leader in the House, was critical of Trump after the January 6th insurrection. He still voted. Did he vote? I think he did vote against certifying the election, but he was critical of Trump. He said Trump had incited the rioters. And then just yesterday, as Lynn Sweet said, flew into Florida to meet with Trump because he realized that his political future was jeopardized by openly disagreeing with Donald Trump. Kevin McCarthy, wants to be Speaker of the House. And if he's going to be Speaker of the House, he has to retain, first of all, he has to get reelected. And secondly, he has to retain the support of Republicans who are very pro-Trump. So he had to go down to Florida and meet with Trump. So that's the future of the Republican congressman, is to make peace with Donald Trump and to move as far away as they can from their criticism of Trump on January 6th. Kinsinger is taking a different point of view. He's doubling down on his criticism of Donald Trump. He's broadening his criticism to include Marjorie Taylor Greene, which I think she warrants being criticized. So I don't believe there's any future for Adam Kinsinger in the Republican Party right now. And if he cares about a political future, he should probably leave the Republican Party. That would be a good idea.
Okay, so I asked the question, and remember, everybody, on this day, Friday, January 29th, according to the Ben Joravsky Show, at this moment, Adam Kinsinger, not that full of shit.
No, he's been pretty consistent about his criticism of Trump. Has been. You got to give him that. I don't agree with him on any policy. He supported Trump's tax cuts for the wealthy. He's a Republican. I'm not a Republican. I think the Republican Party, even beyond Trump, is, how do I put this? Promotes greed and inequity. I do believe that. But Donald Trump took it to another extreme. He just started making stuff up, getting people believing in conspiracy theories that are so bizarre and twisted and weird that they would put their lives aside, storm the Capitol. I don't know if you saw this, D, that there are Republicans, people who were at the Capitol insurrection who are now they're coming forth and saying, well, Trump made me do it. They're blaming Trump for it. I'm not. Now, those are the people I'm like, is that something your lawyer cooked up to get you out of trouble, out of hot water? You know what I'm saying, D? To get that. Oh, I'm starting to wonder about their motivations, a little bit. Or are they trying to look for sympathy from Democrats, to be put up to testify during the impeachment trial that the Senate will be having next month? But there are people starting to say that Trump made me do it. I wouldn't have done this if Trump hadn't led me to do this. Kinsinger is not like that. Kinsinger spoke out against Donald Trump almost from the get-go back in November when Trump started saying that the election was stolen from him. And I do not believe there's a place in the current Republican Party for him. I feel he's fighting an uphill battle to but what did he say? Take back the Republican Party. I don't think that's going to happen in the next, definitely in the next election cycle.
All right, and that leads me to my next question here. I think I know the answer based on what you said there, but any chance of the lone wolf, Adam Kinsinger, running for governor? No, right?
I don't know how he's going to win the Republican nomination. I think about all the candidates that we've talked about who are, make no bones about it, Trump supporters. Darren, D.B. Bailey, the state senator, Jeannie Ives, who else? Johnny Canzera, the Fraternal Order. I think he would have a better shot of winning the Republican nomination than Adam Kinsinger. I don't know who would vote for Adam Kinsinger in the current Republican primary. The Republican Party has moved so far toward Trump that a candidate who was anti-Trump, I can't see him getting a lot of support. Now, when I said this yesterday, it was who was it? It was Samina Mustafa that I was talking about this? Or I can't remember. But the argument is, well, the Trump vote will be split. And so Adam Kinsinger will win the anti-Trump Republican vote, which is what? 20% maybe of the Republican. So I know that's what everybody's saying. Oh, Kinsinger wants to run for governor. I remember Jacob Kaplan saying that to me on election night. Kinsinger, look out for Kinsinger. Kinsinger's going to run for governor. Jacob Kaplan, the executive director of the Cook County Democratic Party. And my reaction then was the same now. Like, how is he going to win a primary? It would be, let me put it this way. I think Bruce Rauner lost to a certain... He lost in part, that Bruce Grant always gets me. He lost in part because he too was playing this. He was playing the game. He didn't criticize Trump, but he always kind of distanced himself a little bit from Trump because he knew that he had been elected in 2014 in part by voters, sort of that suburban swing vote. They'd gone to him. And he was going to lose them if he went too much to Trump. So he was trying to navigate that one, D, and then you saw what happened to him. So my guess is that the Republican Party in Illinois will nominate someone to run for governor against JB, who is very much of the Donald Trump persuasion. And Adam Kinsinger does not meet that qualification.
All right, and if Adam Kinsinger runs, maybe, quite possibly, look for Ben Joravsky at the next Adam Kinsinger rally. I mean, sounds like a fan here.
I'm. It's like today's column in the Sun-Times by Mona Sharin, who is a Republican conservative. Let me get the headline here. Proud of my vote for Joe Biden. And Mona and I agree on almost nothing, except that we both view Donald Trump as a serious threat to democracy in this country. And so in that regards, Adam Kinsinger and I see eye to eye. But I don't see eye to eye on any policy issues. He's a Republican. And so even if he became an independent and ran as an anti-Trump independent, I still wouldn't vote for him. Because he's a Republican, and I don't see eye to eye with him. I don't believe in tax breaks for wealthy people, for instance. I don't know how we can continue to fund government if we just promote social inequity in terms of funding government. And so that's just at the top of the list of policy differences I have with Adam Kinsinger. But yes, D, when it comes to speaking up against Trump, sorry, Heidi Henry, I do appreciate Adam Kinsinger's voice, and I know Heidi's going to give me an earful next week when she comes on the show about that.
But Heidi Henry, don't worry, because I'm on this guy. I think he's full of it, all right? Hey, Kinsinger, why don't you say something without a script, pal? Huh? Take those earbuds out and tell us something for real.
Earbuds?
Yeah, remember one time he gave a speech, and obviously it was a script, and he had his his earbuds in, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Adam Kinsinger."
All right, if you had to choose, here you go. For governor, Adam Kinsinger or Darren D.B. Bailey, who do you vote for?
Well, I'll answer that question in moments here because we're going to have to wait for Kinsinger to make that announcement for governor if it happens. But it looks like we do have another Illinois conservative, Ben, looking to run for governor against J.B. Pritzker. Now, before we find out the newest person on our list, let's run through our early conservative gubernatorial hopefuls thus far. I believe there are only two. The gentleman we just mentioned, the downstate representative from Xenia, Illinois, Darren Who's Gonna Feed Them Hogs Bailey. And remember, everybody, this happened maybe 2 or 3 months ago out of nowhere. Man Cow.
Oh, my God, I forgot.
Chicago native and radio star, Cow Robert Mueller.
I forgot. Is he still running?
I mean, I haven't really heard much since that announcement that he made, but I mean, I would assume.
Wait, time out. Did he actually say he was going to run, or did he say he was thinking of running?
Yeah, he's an early hopeful.
Huh. I completely forgot, man, Cal. Got to add him. I had a list, Jeannie Ives, Kyle Rittenhouse, Johnny Catanzara. Phyllis and Blago, but I did not have Mancow. I got to write it in. Hold on,
Yes,
D. Mancow.
Mancow. First name Man, last name Cow. Remember that.
Yeah, Mr. Cow. New position.
So we got Darren Bailey and Mancow. Well, we have another name to add to the list here. It says here, and shout out to Frank for this, by the way. It says here, wealthy businessman and Trump mega donor Gary Rabin, the founder of a paving company, is, quote, expected to launch a bid for governor next month. This is according to Politico. It's not clear just how much Rabin is worth, but a 2016 report described his business operations as a $210 million conglomerate of 11 companies. Oh, boy, Ben, we cannot relate, huh? So if he still owns a large chunk of that enterprise, it's likely he could at least partly self-fund a campaign. Self-fund a campaign.
Until you mentioned his name to me, D, I did not know him. I must confess. And so I haven't had time to do any research on Gary Rabin. So I don't know if he has legitimate shot at it, but that's the background. That's the type of candidate who would do well in a Republican primary. Someone who is unabashedly a supporter of Donald Trump, is not ashamed of it, makes no bones about it, feels like he was wrongly treated, and feels like he maybe even goes so far as to say that Trump actually won the election, that he lost. Now, that'll be really interesting to see if a Republican who still maintains that Donald Trump actually won this election, to see if that person can win statewide. At the risk of sounding very naive, I would like to say that can't happen. I believe that most voters in the state of Illinois are convinced that Joe Biden won. So you sound a little loony if you go around saying that Donald Trump was victorious. And you do look a little like the insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol, some of whom are already saying, I can't help it. I listened to Donald Trump. He brainwashed me. So I think that's part of that juggling act that the Republicans are going to have to do. They got to distance themselves from the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the Republican universe, but not alienate all the MAGA people who still love Donald Trump. And that will be quite a tightrope walk for Republican candidates to do in 2022. Right now, Pritzker looks vulnerable. We talk about it all the time, all those Pritzker suck signs all over the state of Illinois. But, he's got a lot of money, can run a lot of commercials. And the Republican Party has its own divisions it has to worry about. So it's not clear whether just a completely unabashed Donald Trump supporter could be victorious statewide.
All right, so another early name to possibly run against J.B. Pritzker for governor. We will be keeping you posted when more of these names become available because, quite honestly, I love it. I think it's fun. Yeah, that's right, Kathy on the live stream chat. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's Brianna on the live stream chat. That's right, Governor Cow.
It's the butter cow, which has 9 hearts to represent the 9 essential nutrients in milk. That's right. It's made entirely out of butter, and it's a state fair tradition since at least 1922.
Haven't heard that one in a while. Since 1922.
Hey, we're having a good time. This has been fun, right, listeners? Yeah, well, fun's over because it's time to check back in with state climatologist Trent Ford and this week's Illinois weather report.
Only the very northwest tip of the state, the St. Louis Metro East area, and the South 7 counties have been wetter than normal in January. This past week was one of the snowiest this season. 7-day snowfall totals range from nearly 10 inches in Joe Davies County to less than a quarter of an inch in Iroquois County. Even counties along the Ohio River in southern Illinois picked up close to an inch of snow this week. January snowfall is within 2 inches of normal across the state. For the winter season as a whole, all but the northwest corner of Illinois has seen below average snowfall, less than 5 inches below average in southern Illinois, and between 5 and 10 inches below average in central and northeast
Illinois.
Illinois.
This segment sucks.
That's wetter than normal. That's, wetter than normal. Write that down, D. We got to get him on as a guest.
I can't wait for you to realize that this segment stinks. All right, now let's talk about what's happening in the city of Chicago. No public events scheduled for our Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Thank God. Science is back, baby.
Science is back. Yes, indeed.
No public events, but she may be throwing a going-away party today because Michael Crowley, director of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot's communications office for nearly 18 months, is leaving. Crowley said he is taking a break to, quote, find a new adventure and rekindle his love of running without a cell phone in his hands. Oh, okay. Listen to this prophetic quote here, Ben. It says, quote, sometimes to move forward, you have to step aside.
Crowley said that?
That's Crowley quote.
Wow, that's pretty good.
I guess. His exit comes a few weeks after Anel Ruiz, the mayor's former spokeswoman, left to work in public affairs office in the private sector. Crowley's news also comes amid tense negotiations between the mayor's office and the Chicago Teachers Union. But his leaving at this moment is only coincidence, Crowley said. Crowley is planned for weeks to step down. And ironically, Ben, Crowley started his job just before the 2019 teacher strike.
Well, best of luck to you, young man. I don't know Michael Crowley. I don't know the woman who replaced him. I'm not really on the part of the inside group with Mayor Lori Lightfoot's staff, to put it mildly. Crowley is one of these guys, to the list of people who I'm still expecting a phone call from. Maybe it'll come now. I recall it was a while back, I wanted to bring on someone from the mayor's staff to talk about TIFs and what the mayor was doing, the TIF program. And he said, I'll get back to you with that. And I never heard from him again. I don't blame him. I'm sure when they ran that up the flagpole, there you go on that hippie comedy show? No way. So anyway, best of luck to you, young man. I didn't know you, never met you, but... You know, couldn't have been easy working for Lori Lightfoot's administration over the last year.
We've never heard of you or met you, but you were the communications director, so I got a feeling you heard of us.
Yes, and probably listened to us. So I don't know, D. I've been trying to do some reflection about this. Like, why is it that I just never have good relations with the mayors of Chicago? Why is it? I know it's my fault. It's got to be my fault. You know what I'm saying, D? Because it's like I didn't have a great relationship, to put it mildly, with Mayor Daley, Mayor Rahm. It's like, and now Lori Lightfoot. Is it something about me? I'm really like doing soul searching. I'm going to do my walks at night. You know what I mean? I'm going to think about it. Like, what is it about me?
Search deep.
There's something wrong with me. Everybody else likes the mayors. The whole time Mayor Daley was mayor, I was swimming against the stream. Everybody liked him. And for at least 1 year or so, people love Rahm. And on the north side of Chicago, oh my God, they still love Rahm. Still, he can still get elected in the north side of Chicago. He's a good mayor. Looked out for us.
I mean, I heard he rode his bike 1,000 miles around Lake Michigan.
Yes. Like Rahm Emanuel. What are you complaining about, Ben? Shut up. And my neighbors love Lori Lightfoot. Oh my God. I think they love her even more than they love Rahm. So there's just something weird about me, D. So, why? What is it with me and mayors? You know, and I talked to other reporters. None of them seem to have, this is something I've been dealing with, D. We're going to get to the teachers. You know, like, I'm always pro-teacher. You ever notice that? And then, but very few other reporters share that. It's like, you know, the teachers aren't always right, Ben. You know, teachers aren't always right. Well, I know that. I know teachers aren't always right. I would say like half the teachers I've had in my life, I didn't really like. Now, I don't know about you, D, but I had a lot of teachers that I thought were really bad when I was growing up. And I go, well, you know, I'll get through this year and then I'm on to another teacher. And then every now and then you get a good teacher. I love that teacher. So, you know, I realize that teachers aren't always right. But when I look at a fight between the Chicago Teachers Union and a mayor, and I look at how Chicago public schools are run, I'm like, you know, I'm generally going to be on the side of the teachers. And I actually think Dennis is the same way. We found each other in that. But most people in Chicago aren't like that. Most Chicagoans, in my humble opinion, their instinct is to go with the mayor. And when they elect that mayor, it's like so personal. It's like, that's our mayor. And my mayor is looking out for me. And I really like my mayor. So I'm going to just do some soul searching late at night as I walk.
Please do. I've been waiting for you to say that for years.
And I think you may see a new me next week. I'll be saying nice things about Lori Lightfoot.
Wow.
You know, Dave. And maybe I'll say a nice thing or two about Rom. How about that? You know,
I'm sure your neighbors would love that. You know, you yelling praise out up in your attic. You know, that's probably better.
Yeah. I do know that when Rom sent his precinct workers around back in 2015, I got into a screaming match with them, and the F-bomb was flying. I ended up threatening the guy if he didn't leave my porch. I would call the police on him. So I'm off to a bad start with my neighbors and Rom, okay? And now my neighbors and Lori. I don't know what it is, D, but it's something about the mayor. After I watch mayors for a while, I'm like, I kind of have an attitude about mayors like you have toward Adam Kinsinger. You know what I'm saying, D? It's like...
Oh, full of shit?
Yeah, something like that. So I'm going to work on it, D. I really am, okay? I'm going to work on it.
Best news I've heard all year so far. That's good. Please do some soul searching. All right, talking more here about this Crowley feller stepping down here, taking Crowley's place as communications director. Well, it's the mayor's deputy director of the office, Kate LaFergie. I hope she's good at lying. Lightfoot said about LaFergie, or LaFergie, I don't know. But she said about this person, quote, Kate has played a critical part in navigating our city through the enormous challenges of the last year. She is fiercely committed to our mission of building a transparent, responsive city government that reflects the experience and needs of our residents. And I am thrilled to have her stepping into this leadership role. I mean, if she says it, it must be true, right, Ben?
Well, that's part of the new me, yes. If our mayor says this, it's true. And don't you ever forget that, okay? This is my pet peeve from leftover from yesterday. I'll repeat it. The mayor is really proud of her press secretary, saying great things about her. Press secretary is supposed to work for us, not the mayor. But let's face it, this is how it goes in politics today. You know, the public pays the salary for a person whose job it is to put out the best news possible about the mayor. So she works for the mayor, but she's paid by the public. If she was really representing the public, and I realize this is so unrealistic I'm saying this, but if she was really representing the public, then she wouldn't even work for the mayor. It would be a matter of gathering up information that she believes that the public should see and making certain that all that information was presented to the public quickly and easily for them to access so that we would have all our answers readily when we want them. But that's not how it works, D. These guys are flacks for the mayor, paid for by the public. You know, something wrong with that. Uh-oh, here comes that anti-mayor feeling. There's something wrong with that. But just it's not the way it should be, but that's the way it is. It's the way it is with the president, the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, down the road, every single one of these PR people works for the politician, but they're paid for by the public. Got troubles with that, D. Just have troubles with that.
He's got troubles with that. All right. So that is our local news here for this hour. Coming up after our interview with Rummana Hussain, we're going to be talking about the latest with the Chicago Teachers Union. All right. So don't worry. We're going to be talking about that a little later on as well. Yeah, like I said, that's our local news. Trent Ford, take us home.
Another winter storm will be making its way through the region over the weekend,
okay,
with expectations of rain, snow mix in central Illinois and mostly snow for northern Illinois.
Oh, that's good news.
Forecasts indicate the potential for precipitation totals between 1 inch and 2 inches statewide over the next 7 days, with the highest totals in east central Illinois. Precipitation on mostly unfrozen soils will be important to improving dry soil conditions across central Illinois. Looking farther out, CPC outlooks for the first week of February show much of the same, strongly elevated odds of wetter than normal conditions, with the highest odds of near normal temperatures. This is Illinois State climatologist Trent Ford, wishing everyone a happy, healthy weekend.
Oh, hey, thanks, Trent. That was really nice. Rummana just joined us. She fell asleep. Wake up, Rummana.
How are you guys?
We're doing well.
Good. What? Trent Ford is boring. But there you go, guys. Remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews, and so much more at chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download podcasts. You can always send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. Find us on social media at Benny J Show. And you can call the Ben Joravsky Show. It's true. 708-658-4788. That number again, 708-658-4788. We would love to hear from you. Coming up, Rummana Hussain and the Rummana Rundown. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Friday, January 29th is brought to you by SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana, the Chicago Reader, and the Chicago Federation of Labor. Benny J, take it away.
Every Friday, the Ben Joravsky Show, Rummana Hussain, editor-columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times, joins us. Welcome back to the show, Rummana.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
I thought we lost you there for a second. All right. There's so much to talk about, and where do I start? Well, let me just start with AOC versus Ted Cruz. And I talked about this earlier in the show. I did a riff on their little showdown as part of the whole GameStop controversy. And it's really interesting, Rummana. AOC has been unrelenting in her criticism of Ted Cruz. In my opinion, this is my opinion, I believe it's warranted. I believe that Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and the other Republicans who signed on to the preposterous notion that there was fraud in a campaign that Joe Biden clearly won, who worked a part of Donald Trump's efforts to manipulate folks into believing something that was unreal was real, they have a responsibility to be held accountable for their behavior. But now Republicans are saying, you're mean, AOC, when you pick on Ted Cruz. You're going too far. You're not promoting unity. You're continuing the divisiveness that Joe Biden says he wants to eradicate. So you should back down and just forget everything that happened on January 6th. I have a lot of trouble with this. Rummana, love to hear your thoughts. Should AOC back down from her insistence that people like Ted Cruz be held accountable for what went down on January 6th? Go.
In my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, I think AOC is right to call on any Republican, including Ted Cruz, to be held accountable for what happened. I think I know that a lot of people are just tired of, or at least, I don't know, I can personally say, I'll say my opinion. I just think this whole let's move on this attitude is just so aggravating, because if it was any other group, those certain people who rioted that day, everybody would have been like, never forget, wearing American flag pins. January 6th would be etched in our memories forever. Now everybody's like, oh, let's just put this behind us and let's all get together and hold hands. And I don't think that's necessarily acceptable for a lot of people. And I think for people to applaud any sort of Republican for all of a sudden waking up to all these issues that were happening on one night after they slept on it one night after 4 years, they decided oh yeah, maybe there's something a little fishy going on here. I don't know. I think they should be held accountable. I don't think we need to move past this this quickly. And I think AOC is warranted in her in her, like, in her tweets, when Ted Cruz all of a sudden said that he agreed with her when it came to Robinhood, that trading app, being investigated for its restricted trades on GameStop and letting the Wall Street people invest. So it was, I did see the back and forth a little, and there's been like articles written about it. So I think I am in the opinion that I'm a journalist. I think everybody should be held accountable, and for people just to be able to walk away, I don't think that's acceptable.
I'm with you 100% there, and I got a big kick out of it. It seemed like Ted Cruz. Well, first of all, I give AOC credit because she jumped on this issue before the Republicans did. That's why I said, oh my God, she really just has a sense of like where the news is trending, the direction that the party should be in almost any issue. She's so quick and so fast. And I think that's why Republicans hate her so much, because she's so effective at communicating without the media as the intermediary in a totally different message, but much the same way as Donald Trump. She controls the flow of information, and that frustrates Republicans when they see someone, a Democrat, being so good at the game as Trump is. And then, so what Ted Cruz tried to do, he tried to like jump on her bandwagon to make it seem like he hadn't been trashing her for all these weeks, months, years. And she just said, no, you can't do that. You can't just, use my star power to promote your shabby career. I give her credit for that. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I do too. And she, she talked about how, like, she said to Ted Cruz that you almost got me killed on January 6th. And she, I think there was like some back and forth. And then she's like, well, what do you want me to do? Like hug you and everything is going to be okay. So, I mean, I think she's right, like I said, in holding him accountable. And it's like for all those 4 years, he was attacking her, and all of a sudden he wants to be friends. It's like, oh, let's be friends. It's like kids playing in the playground. It's like some kid hitting you or pulling your hair for the last 4 years, and something wrong happens, or his friends abandon him, and he's like, oh, I think we should be friends now. So I think she is right in holding him accountable. And I have to admit, I will say my opinion on this matter. I was on AOC's side on this matter, although nobody would be shocked with that. So.
Well, you're entitled to opinions. You are a columnist, and you're also a human being, so you're entitled to your opinions. Immediately when AOC criticized Ted Cruz, there was a congressman in Texas whose name is Chip Roy. I'm not making that up. That's his name, Chip Roy, and who used to work for Ted Cruz. And he said that she had gone too far, and he called on Nancy Pelosi to chastise her, which is, in my humble opinion, a favorite tactic of Republicans to play the victim card and constantly sobbing that they're being picked on by the mean left.
My question to Chip is, by the way, it just sounds like a very Republican name, not to stereotype, but my question is, did Chip ever say Donald Trump went too far with his tweets? I am just curious. It's just the hypocrisy is just incredible.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is incredible. And then it gets in the issue of cancel culture. Because when I saw that, I'm like, Chip, I'm just saying, it looks like you're trying to cancel her culture. Okay, I'm just throwing that out there, all right? So got me thinking about the whole concept of cancel culture. In your mind, what is cancel culture? How do you define cancel culture? Because I know you follow this with skepticism from all different areas, but how would you define cancel culture?
Well, I think of cancel culture, immediately what comes to my mind is holding people accountable. And I think people have been held accountable in the past. But I told you, and we've talked about this before in the show, in the past, it was only certain groups that were held accountable for anything they said. They would be chastised. They would be usually people of color, from my opinion, from my vantage point, from what I've seen. I just feel like now that, people who have been held power or who have been held in high esteem have all of a sudden been called out for things that, might be unacceptable and these are things that are probably unacceptable for a long time. I mean, I know Woody Allen has talked about cancel culture, but it's like he's been doing things that should have canceled him a long time ago, but because he was Woody Allen, white guy, he really was never criticized until recently. And I feel like telling him, like, people like him, I'm like, you're like 100 years old almost. I mean, you got to live your life the way you wanted to without being held accountable for anything. Meanwhile, you have people like Barack Obama when he was running for president. I'm just giving an example. He had to cut a lot of people from his life if he wanted to, or he would have been basically had to cancel him, be canceled by the general American public. And I think people of color have been canceled for a long time. People find something, if there's somebody who's held an elected position or on a board, somebody connects them to something and they go, well, this is controversial, and they end up leaving the board. I've seen that happen with a lot of people of color in the last few years. I just feel like, and I'm not one of those people that it's like, okay, if somebody says something, I'm not saying that people can't redeem themselves. But I think that a lot of the panic that's happening, it's from people who never have been held accountable. And so they feel like now that there's a certain class of people, a certain group of elites that are being held accountable, everybody has their like underwear in a twist or their panties in a twist. Everybody's like getting all freaked out. So I just think it's being held accountable. That's what I hear. I think people make it sound like it's more serious than it is. And if you don't want to be canceled, you respond. Have a good response ready for something that you did that is, questionable.
No, you raise a very good point about Woody Allen. I mean, for years and years and years, Woody Allen made movies in which older men were sort of like preying on younger women. And in the worldview of Woody Allen's movies, the younger women were just enchanted by the older men.
Yeah.
And it was like his fantasy. That's clearly what it is. Like, they're so smart, the older guys, and it doesn't matter what they look like or how old they are or what have you. It's like the young women are just like, oh my God, that's so brilliant. And being with you is just making my life better. I was confession time. I have a confession to make, Rummana. I love Woody Allen back in the 70s. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sure you did.
I loved him. Annie Hall. I love Annie Hall. When I saw it recently, by the way, it did not.
Did it not hold up?
No. I went to this thing. Let me share this with you, Rummana. This is before the show, before I started having you come on as a regular on the show, where I just went to the 70s kick, where I started watching all the movies that I loved in the 70s to see which ones held up. Maybe I did it. I can't remember when I did it. But anyway, one of the movies I watched was Annie Hall. That was one of the movies that least held up from the 70s. And I watched movies. I was so into movies in the 70s. But the other ones like Chinatown. And Roman Polanski, very problematic man. He directed Chinatown.
Oh, of course.
So it's like really weird to say, put aside the rape charge. It's a great movie, other than the rape charge. So it sounds really weird, but the movie still holds up. But yeah. Annie Hall did not. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's interesting. And nobody's saying there's musicians I like. I mean, I love the Beatles, and the Beatles were not perfect. I mean, I read books about John Lennon and the Beatles, and John Lennon didn't treat his first wife very well. I think he was abusive to her. But I love John Lennon. Here he is singing about peace and, Imagine, and, he was hitting his wife. So it's not like people I have, been impressed with their art haven't been problematic, because nobody's perfect at the end of the day. But it's like the whole redeeming thing where you can redeem yourself. I'm not saying that people can't evolve, but there have been a lot of people, like, I guess Woody Allen was my example, because I'm just thinking, like, he got to be problematic for all his life. And he was like, everybody thought he was, the whole thing was, I don't know. I know my husband Mick says women liked him too. Then I'm like, I don't know what. I mean, I guess some women liked him too because it was cool to like Woody Allen, but it's like he was able to be problematic for most of his life. So for him to be held accountable now in his, I don't know how old he is now, but in his Octarian, he's 80s or something.
Yeah, he's got to be 80 at least.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, you're being held accountable now. So I mean, just deal with it. Why not?
Well, that was the point I went on a tangent about how his movies have dated. Although I still like Small Time Crooks. There are these movies I still like Small Time Crooks. Anyway, I believe like Woody Allen complains about cancel culture because people legitimately criticize not just his life off camera, but the relationships that I was just talking about on camera.
Oh, for sure.
This obsession he has with older men being the alleged infatuation women have with older men. And so I would like to see Woody Allen address that. So it's to your point, it's like it's not just they're picking on you because they don't like you. It's they're criticizing you legitimately. What's your response? Do you follow what I'm saying? I would like to see, but instead of falling back, oh, they just want to cancel me.
Yeah.
Instead of just, responding to the criticism. That's what I would like to see.
For sure. And that's what it is. It's like, people are being held accountable. Now, like I said, it's like a certain group of people are being held accountable. Now everybody's getting all like frustrated because they're being held accountable. That's what I think.
All right. Now, that leads me to what do you do about Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is the newly elected congresswoman from a district in Georgia, and evidence is coming out. You talk about Woody Allen's behavior. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, far exceeds Woody Allen's behavior. Just abusive behavior. I don't know if you'd had an opportunity to look at that video.
I did. Okay. I watched it, as you told me to do.
Gave her a homework assignment. Tracking David Hogg, the young activist, the gun control activist, as he was walking down the street, just totally accosting him, making threatening, what was it, Facebook or social media comments about Nancy Pelosi. And yet, Republicans say that's cancel culture too. I mean, what do you do about, in your humble opinion, about Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene?
I don't know, because she's not my problem. That's the way I'm seeing it. I did not create Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think one of the things is to try to we have to fix the culture that has allowed her to become a congresswoman. I mean, this is a woman that was tweeting hateful, racist tweets for a long time, even before she was elected. So people do find this acceptable. She hasn't been canceled. In fact, she's been embraced. The fact that she can become a congresswoman shows you that she hasn't been canceled. She believes, she said racist things about African Americans. She said racist things about Muslims and all other groups. She's a Donald Trump supporter. She's allowed to be a Donald Trump supporter. But, she has said that, she believes in the QAnon theories, that, the Democrats are like running a pedophile ring and are cannibals. And this is considered acceptable to a lot of people. So she hasn't been canceled. So I think it's the culture that has allowed for her to become a congresswoman. That is what needs to be dismantled. I mean, you look at someone like Donald Trump, like the fact that he became president, you need to dismantle that culture. I don't know how that can be dismantled, but it has to be a cultural sort of, force or something. Education needs to be out there, and it doesn't matter. I feel like it's a problem that we're going to have for a long time. I know we were talking about the Capitol riots. That's not going to go away. Those threats aren't going to go away. I just posted a Wire story, an Associated Press Wire story, about how Capitol Hill is going to have security for a long time because of what happened on January 6th. So this is something that needs to be addressed on many levels. I think the government needs to look into it. I think communities need to look into it. It's something that's really complicated and complex, and I don't know how it's going to be dismantled. I'm not from Georgia, and I can easily say that I'm not part of the QAnon crowd or know anybody that's part of the QAnon crowd, but it's something that needs to be addressed for sure.
Well, to that point, I think I should allow you to do a bit of a victory lap. I told you I was going to raise it, so I might as well. You came a long time ago, may have been on the radio when I was still on the radio. You came on, and I was a typical lefty, and I said something nice about Tulsi Gabbard, and you immediately corrected me. And I had our mutual friend Samina Mustafa was on the show yesterday, and we talked at length about this. But Tulsi Gabbard, the congresswoman from Hawaii, ran briefly for president as a Democrat, is now definitely moving into MAGA country. She had a series of tweets last week. Very interesting. She was talking about the civil libertarian aspect of the government's crackdown on far-right, Trump-loving militiamen and QAnon advocates who were threatening Congress people and threatening to kill them and storming the Capitol. And she's very concerned about a backlash. And when I read her, I had just had to smile a little bit to think about the things that you said. And I'm giving all the shout outs, Samina Mustafa and Amisha Patel, 3 Indian American women who came on my show and just sort of opened up my eyes to Tulsi Gabbard. So I know you must think it's ironic mildly to see suddenly Tulsi Gabbard worried about a backlash and a loss of civil liberties when she has her own sort of difficulties on the subject when it comes to Muslims. Talk a little bit about her, Rummana.
Yeah, I mean, she's one of the things a lot of Indian Muslims didn't like her from the beginning, when she was touted as like this wonderful, oh, here's this Hindu American running for Congress, and she has a military background. And then, of course, all the Muslims and, a lot of other Indians were like, hello, she's like, she cozies up to Narendra Modi, and she's also cozied up to the Syrian dictators as well. So I think a lot of the things and a lot of the comments and then she's also made a lot of anti-Muslim comments. So yeah, maybe for the general public, she wasn't problematic, but for a lot of people that were part of my community, they're just like, oh, hell no. That was the reaction to her. And it was kind of interesting seeing, like, there were a lot of people on the left who were like putting her on this pedestal for a while. I mean, there was a lot of places on the north side where I'd see signs for her and I'd be like, oh, interesting. So it depends on what, how far you dig into like a lot of these politicians and, your background. And so I know when she stood up, everybody was like, oh my God. And then, the one thing that stood out for us, she is an Indian, which doesn't matter, but, her name is Tulsi, which means basil. So, some of us found that kind of funny, but that's fine. But yeah, she does have a record for her anti-Muslim comments and making comments when it comes to, she always talks about military intervention, but I think she's okay with military intervention when it deals with certain groups of people, from what I've seen in her record. So there's been a countless of articles written about her, which I'm sure you've read ever since or are aware of ever sins.
No, my eyes have been open about Tulsi, and again, she's just one character. She's not, I don't even know if she's in the Democratic Party. I think she's sort of the Democrats' equivalent of Adam Kinsinger, who is the Republican from the 16th Congressional District, who is clearly toying with the notion of leaving the Republican Party because he's so offended by Donald Trump. Well, Tulsi Gabbard is clearly toying with the notion of leaving the Democratic Party, whether she has officially or not, because she's offended by the powers that be in the Democratic Party. And there's legitimate points that she makes from time to time about cautioning about the backlash. But yeah, you're right. It's just inexcusable, her attitudes in the past. And it's just kind of hard. Again, it gets back to the issue. Is anybody going to be held accountable for the things that they say, in the past? Or are we just going to look the other way because we agree with them on a particular point? And my next issue I'd love to talk to you about, another controversial character. I talked about her a couple of days ago. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, former press secretary to Donald Trump, is running for governor of Arkansas. And because I'm, for some reason, on the fundraising list of the Tea Party, I got her fundraising appeal. I analyzed it the other day, but one point I didn't make when I talked to you about is like on the fundraising appeal, it's highlighting why she should be supported by Republicans. And I think there's 3 things they mentioned: family, loves family, Second Amendment right supporter, so guns, and then just one word: Christian. I got to tell you, man, I was like, what does your religion have to do with it? I mean, why? I mean, I think I know the answer, but
You do, yeah, I do too.
I just, like, why would you put that out there? And what does that say about the Republican Party? Anyway, your thoughts about that?
Well, I think for a lot of people, when especially people on the right, when you say Christian, it means and especially if you're a white Christian, I don't think it really applies to a black Christian. It's like, I'm an American. That's what I think stands out. I'm a real American. I'm make America great again kind of person. I think it's just a dog whistle for me. Like, yeah, I'm a Christian. I'm American. That's a lot of people, when they think Christian, they think that's synonymous with American. I mean, we've never had a Jewish president, have we? So, and, you know, Barack Obama was quote unquote accused and, you know, of being a Muslim. So it's like when you hear Christian, it's like, oh, I'm a good person and I'm a good American. So she's just using that word to, you know, rile up certain groups of people. And that's a lot of people in the United States. I mean, Donald Trump, I don't know, from what I've understood about Christianity, I'm a Muslim, clearly. I don't really think that he embodied what I think a Christian should be, but he's a Christian. He's like, that's what he was born into. And that makes him better than someone who was a Muslim who's qualified or a Jewish person who's qualified. That's what I've seen in American culture. As a layperson, it's like, if you're a Christian, you do have a leg up. So it's kind of like being Irish in Chicago. If you're Irish in Chicago, it does give you a leg up. And so if you're a Christian in the United States and you're white, hey, you got a leg up over the other candidates if they're don't belong to those groups.
All right, so let me ask you this. In your humble opinion, who is more likely to be elected president first? A Muslim, a Jew, or an atheist?
Jewish. I think maybe Jewish, Muslim, and atheist. That's what I'm thinking.
Atheist. In other words, atheist at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, atheist is at the bottom of the list. I mean, I believe in God, but if there was a good atheist, like it wouldn't sway me either way. Like, you know, I'd be like, okay, if they're an atheist, I mean, that's fine. They're an atheist as long as, like, you know, I believe in their politics. But I think a lot of people do feel strongly about atheism. So I think people who belong to a religious group, I think they would get voted in before. But I think it's going to be a while for a Muslim. But I think a Jewish person will be voted in first, for sure.
I definitely think atheists. Never happened in my lifetime. It will never happen. You're right. It's just so bizarre, the notion of an atheist. I can't even think of an atheist that was elected to a local office. Maybe I'm forgetting somebody, but I can't recall, like an alderman who was an atheist. Yeah, so it's that bedrock belief in religion that is just, you have to have that in order to be elected.
I think Barack Obama, like, wasn't a religious person at all. Like, you know, I mean, obviously his fathers were Muslim and his mother was Christian, and I'm not saying that he didn't care about religion, but it's like once I think he knew who was going to hold office, I think he started to going to church. So I bet there are some people who are borderline atheists who are holding public office, but they're never going to say that. They're just like, they're going to be seen going to church. They're going to make sure people see them going to church. Not necessarily the synagogue or the mosque, but it's like, I think that does help them with their elections.
That is a very good point. Barack Obama, when he realized that he wanted a future in Chicago as a politician, he joined a church. And then there was a whole issue of which church does he join. And
then he had to leave his church, right? Because he had to denounce his church.
Yes. And so you're probably right. Who knows what goes on in Barack Obama's mind? I don't even pretend to say I know. But I
book.
What's that?
You can read his new book and understand a little more.
Well, I read his first two books, and you know. Yeah, the second book was more like a series of campaign speeches.
Yeah, of course. And that's why I feel like this new one's going to be like that. Like, I felt like the second one's like, okay, I know I'm going to run for president, and I'm going to be all about let's get together and be unified.
Yeah, but you're absolutely correct. Barack Obama and his whole relation with Reverend Church and how he joined the church, it sort of gave him credibility in Chicago when he was running on the South Side for a state senator in Congress. And then he left the church when it became inconvenient to be a member of that particular church. Just I mean, it could be that he had just a legitimate difference of agreement with Reverend Wright. I could give him his point on that one. All right, let's move on. Rummana's recommendations. We'll close it down with Rummana's recommendations. And what are you offering up?
Okay, so I watched The White Tiger as you assigned to me last week and reading the book. I did like it. There was a couple things I thought it was lacking, but I think there were some parts of it that were really, really good. I do recommend that. And I forgot to tell you earlier when we were offline, but I did finish the 4th season of Call My Agent. I thought I was going to just go through it slowly, but it was only 6 episodes. It's only 6 episodes. And so I went through it pretty quick. I was like, oh my God, I'm done with it. And I have to tell you, Maureen O'Donnell, I recommended it to Maureen O'Donnell, who's our obituary writer. And I told her that Ben actually recommended it to me. So she thanked you and then thanked me. So just wanted to let you know. So now there's 2 things that have been I've been reading about. Malcolm and Marie. Have you heard about that?
What's Malcolm and Marie?
Malcolm and Marie is about this couple. This guy, Malcolm, he's like a movie producer or director, and he wins an award and he forgets to thank his girlfriend. And then then they come back home and the whole movie is about their relationship unraveling after that awards night. But it's getting a lot of buzz. It's on Netflix. Zendaya's in it. She's this young actress who was a Disney Channel star. I've been hearing a lot of buzz about that. I don't know if Mick will want to watch that, but everybody's been talking about that for the last day or so. And then there's also an Iranian movie. I love Iranian movies. It's called The Night. I don't know if it's like a horror movie. It's a paranormal sort of movie, but it's also about a deteriorating relationship. As you can see, this is all about marriages and relationships breaking up. But it's supposed to be based in an LA hotel room, and it's supposed to be good. There's like supernatural forces in the movie, but it's basically about a relationship unraveling. So those are my recommendations. I've heard good things about them and I do want to see them. I don't know if I'm going to see them this week, but those are on my docket for now. How about you?
I have to say, I talked to your husband, who always gets thrown under the bus in this segment, Mick Dumke, good friend of mine, booked him for the show for next week. We'll be talking straight politics. I'm really looking forward to that episode. But while booking him, he withering assault from Mick Dumke to me for recommending Sylvie's Love. Withering, he told me a wretched, horrible movie. I'm like, what can I say? I just don't let this get out, but I watched it again. And don't tell anybody. So I'm really reluctant to, I'm defensive now. I love Call My Agent so much. And yes, I'm watching season 4. I have 2 episodes to go. It's just delightful, like French soap opera. One thing I've learned is that a lot of people don't like subtitles. I've learned that. So I know you don't mind them, but
watching that are based in other countries, I just think it's important to watch films that are set in other places besides the United States.
I'm with you. I'm just saying that when I recommend movies with subtitles, a lot of people just turn off. So I'm really reluctant to tell people to watch Call My Agent, but I love it. The way they inflate the lives of these actors and the agents, have to act like they're babysitters, they're nannies. You just realize how obsessed we are with culture. It's just a great satire on many levels. Yeah. And it's a fun soap opera. Sigourney
Weaver's in episode 5.
That is correct. I'm looking forward to that one. That's the next one I have left. And I just got to tell you, I watched last week a documentary called Mike Wallace is Here, and I recommend that as well. I don't know if you've seen that, Mike Wallace. It's maybe before your time. It's on.
Was he on 2020?
No, he was on 60 Minutes for years, and it's more of a baby boomer thing. But it's on Hulu, I want to say. I thought it's a fascinating documentary about a person who has a public persona, but his inner persona, if you will, or the inner self is far different. He suffered from depression. And he clearly didn't, he didn't go through life with the confidence that he just exuded when he was on the air. So Mike Wallace, and plus it's some great footage of interviews with Mike Wallace and famous people from Betty Davis to Malcolm X. So I recommend that. Mike Wallace is here. And I will watch White Tiger. I finished the book, so now I can watch the movie.
Okay.
So
you have to let me know what you think.
What's that?
You'll have to let me know what you think.
Yes, I will. All right, Rummana, stay safe and sound, and we'll talk to you next week, okay?
Okay, guys, later.
That's the great Rummana Hussain from the Chicago Sun-Times. D, what you got for me?
Rummana, wait! I miss her every time. I want to throw in my suggestions for Rummana. I'm going to try to remember next week, but I was going to suggest she watch the entire series of Wings on NBC.
I think she may have already seen that one.
It's great. Great show. Fantastic show. Great Caucasian programming that NBC provided there in the 90s. All right, let's do the back half. First up, we were talking about it in the first hour of the program. Another staffer has left the team of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. It's communications director, well, I guess now former communications director, Michael Crowley. And Ben, I guess that's leaving a lot of our Chicago journalists wondering at the moment. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Fran the Woman Spielman. This was at 1:15 this afternoon. And let the speculation begin. Mayor Lori Lightfoot changed communications directors before she had even served 100 days in office. Now it's happened again, fueling questions about whether the crisis-filled times coupled with Lightfoot's abrasive management style might be making it difficult for her to hold on to good people. Fran's words, not ours, okay? Fran continues. Lightfoot's communications director, Michael Crowley, abruptly resigned Friday after 18 months on the job. He replaced communications director Marielle Sainvelis, who didn't last 4 months. So why even bother pronouncing her name correctly? Let's see here. We have a quote. We have a quote from Crowley. Crowley said, quote, "You know as well as anyone what an incredible and unprecedented time it's been and how much all of us pour into this job. There's a point at which you just need to move on." Crowley, 40 years old, told the Chicago Sun-Times, "I've been doing it for 18 months. I'm real proud of everything we've done. I just need a minute to catch my breath, to be honest, before I figure out what my next steps are going to be." It says here, Crowley is the latest in a string of top mayoral aides to leave Lightfoot's staff before the midway point of her 4-year term. So Fran's speculating a little bit. Ben, well, let's do the same. Does Mayor Lightfoot have a bigger problem happening behind the scenes?
Well, I just have to take delight in the premise of Fran's article. Fran Spielman's been covering City Hall for a long, long time. And like many reporters in Chicago, by the way, D, oh my God, I forgot. I have to promote First Tuesday.
Oh.
Maya's gonna, oh my goodness.
Man, I wish you would have told me that. I would have been promoting it all week.
Be so mad at me. You didn't promote First Tuesday enough because we're going to have journalists on the show. We're going to be talking about press coverage. I bet you will be talking about what it's like to work for Mayor Lori Lightfoot. But anyway, First Tuesday will be coming up this coming Tuesday at 7 o'clock from the Hideout. Please, 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 if you're free, drop in and watch us. It's essentially raises money for the Hideout, which has been devastated by the pandemic, forced to close. Mine and I be talking politics with Gregory Pratt.
Let's clarify what drop in and watch us means, right?
It's all virtual.
Okay,
yes.
There we go.
So you can't come into, obviously, and that's why it's so important to help the Hideout, which opened up its doors to me, a lefty, and put me on the stage next to Mick Dumke, who's more the moderate, and allowed us to have conversations for so long until the pandemic forced the Hideout to close its door. Mick had moved on, and Maya had joined me as my co-host. But we're going to do another virtual one. So, yes, that'll be this Tuesday at 7 o'clock. I think Maya's coming on the show Tuesday to promote it. Anyway, but reporters don't believe anything they hear. You know what I'm saying, D? It's sort of like that line in Chicago, if your mother says she loves you, check it out. And so if someone says XYZ, the reporter's instinctive reaction is like, what's the real story? You know, and that's why you see so many unnamed quotes in articles where, all right, I'll tell you what's really going on, but don't use my name. And so, that's kind of the habit so if you're a reporter and you have to deal with someone like Michael Crowley or whoever, Anna LaFleur, whatever her name is, the new press secretary, you develop relationships with these people. You have on the record and off the record. There's a transactional aspect to it where, all right, I'll tell you, I'm going to give you the canned statement, and then I'm going to give you the real thing. And that's kind of the game that reporters play. And I pretty much stopped doing that game many, many years ago. I don't know. Mainly because, I didn't have the best of relationships with Chicago press secretaries, D, as you can imagine, being so critical of mayors. So I didn't have much of an opportunity to play that game, but that's kind of the game you play. And so then when a press secretary leaves, the notion is, well, why would they walk away from like the pinnacle? That's the job that if you're in PR, that's what you would want. So automatically you don't believe it. I don't know. Do you think, just looking at it from afar, do you think Lori Lightfoot would be a fun person to work for? What do you think, D?
Oh, you asking me? Who do I look like? Joanna Klonsky?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Do you look like Joanna Klonsky? No, you do not look like Joanna Klonsky. So I don't know if Lori Lightfoot is a easy person to work for. She's got these moments where she can be pretty tough. Like, remember the lakefront? Get off that lakefront. We'll take your car. But then she has that warm, soft side, like the public service announcement she made Thanksgiving when she was urging everyone not to have Thanksgiving with grandma. And then a month later, getting at school. So maybe Crowley was like, I don't know who to believe. Thanksgiving, Lori, or getting at school, Lori? He was having a hard time keeping up, D, and he just said, you know what? I'm juggling so many different points of view. I can't keep track of where I'm supposed to be today. I'm just walking out. Anyway, I'm looking forward to that phone call from Crowley. You remember he hosted me the phone call. So now he's not working. The phone ring, ding-a-ding-a-ling, ring. Hi, Ben, Mike Crowley here. About that interview.
So you're saying that?
I don't blame him. I do not blame anybody from Lori Lightfoot's PR team not wanting their guy to come on the Ben Joravsky show.
You're saying they're having trouble deciphering between this Lori?
This is the right thing to do, even though it's a hard thing to do. Of course, I'll give your love to Amy and Viv and Hank. All right, love you, Mom. We'll talk on Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.
Wait for the sigh. Got the sigh.
Between that Lori and this Lori?
I won't just turn the car around. I'm going to shut it off. I'm going to kick you out, and I'm going to make you walk home.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Which Lori is it today? I'm losing my mind. I think I'll just quit. I don't blame him. I wouldn't want the job in the first place, but that's just me. So best of luck to you, Michael Crowley. I had a couple conversations with you on the phone. Still waiting for that phone call back. Maybe I'll get it now.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on it. And finally, right before the weekend, by the way, go download this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews at chicagoreader.com and wherever you download podcasts. Our coverage on the Chicago Teachers Union and their current dispute with Mayor Lightfoot and her Chicago Public Schools team continues. The two parties are currently in negotiations as to how and when teachers will be safely returning to their classrooms. And apparently it's an issue old Michael Crowley couldn't communicate. You know what I mean, Ben?
You blame Crowley. They're blaming Crowley. Damn it, Crowley.
Come on.
It's your fault.
Come on, Crowley. What, you want to go jog or something? Get out of here. But remember, everybody, the CPS would really like it if the teachers returned to their classrooms. And so far, the Chicago Teachers Union has been like, I don't know, seems kind of dangerous. And the CPS has been like, quit being a wimp, get back in the classroom. Still no luck. What?
That is a very good just analysis of everything that's going on. I got to give you credit. That was really well done. Like the two sides, you know. Shut up, get in that classroom. But there's a dead mouse there. Just forget that dead mouse. Did I tell you we spent $100 million cleaning these classrooms? Get in that classroom.
Still no luck on an agreement, and the CPS's plans of returning to in-person learning ASAP has been halted. Now to the latest from Stefano Esposito in the Chicago Sun-Times. The headline reads, negotiations over CPS reopening plans in a, quote, sensitive place.
Ooh.
I know. Negotiations over Chicago Public Schools reopening plans are in a sensitive place and are expected to continue through the weekend. That's according to union leaders on Friday. Chicago Teachers Union President Jesse Sharkey said during an online call with union members and reporters, quote, we are obviously going to keep talking. We want an agreement. If the mayor is talking about the CTU being the source of stopping things up by raising unreasonable demands, that's not true. We want to raise demands about things that matter at our school and the safety of our members and the children, and allow us to get schools open in a safe way. Sharkey said teachers refusing to report to work in person are still getting threatening letters from the administration that include warnings that, quote, lockouts begin Monday. Let's see here. Sharkey goes on saying they are not going to accomplish by force what they can't accomplish with persuasion. They are not going to accomplish with bullying and threats what they can't accomplish by looking at us and trying to make rational agreements with us. We're teachers. We understand how bullying works.
Yeah. Well, you know, everybody knows where my instincts are in this. And it's funny because I've been thinking about this, Dee. It's part of my soul searching. Like, why are more reporters and writers on this sides of the teachers in the dispute? And I realize once again, it's kind of lonely out here. And there's just, I think there's just like a knee-jerk reaction that many writers have to be against teachers in this moment. I just saw a headline, David Brooks' article, essay in the New York Times, get back in those classrooms was effectively what he was saying. I think the fact of teachers organized in the unions that stand up on behalf of the teachers is upsetting to many people. I think there's a lot of people out there who feel their lives are worse than the teachers, so they don't want to feel sorry for teachers in any way. A lot of reporters have that attitude. Like if they have to write about teachers and the teachers are protesting a wage, what they think is an inadequate wage hike or a bullying atmosphere, the reporters go, you think you got it bad? Oh my God, you should work in fill in the blank. Reporters been asked to work for more for less for years. So I don't think there's a lot of sympathy for teachers out there. And my attitude, Dee, is this. I've been watching the Chicago public schools for many, many years, and I have sort of the same attitude toward the Chicago public schools as Fran Spielman has for official comments released by a press spokesperson. Very dubious about their claims. And so when I hear something just this basic, we'll close down the show with sort of the theme of the week. When I hear the public schools say, we spent $100 million cleaning up the schools, my first thought is, where did you find that $100 million? I thought you were dead broke. So that sort of undercuts your notion that you have no money. And two, I'm like, well, then, if you cleaned up the schools and did such a great job, why are there dead mice in classrooms? Just throwing that out there, Dee. And so, yes, I think I have just a healthy amount of skepticism about the Chicago public schools when they make these grandiose claims. And I don't blame teachers for being a little cautious about accepting those claims at face value.
All right. And there it is. A week of Ben Joravsky shows. Remember, you can find us online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can always send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. If you'd like us to read your email on the show, leave your name and where you're from. Very helpful. Also, you can call the Ben Joravsky Show. It's true. We have a phone number, 708-658-4788. That number again is 708-658-4788. We would love to hear from you. Have a great weekend, and we'll see everybody on Tuesday.
I want to thank Rummana Hussain. She did a great job as she does every Friday. Of course, thank the man, the myth, the legend, the pride of joy in Alton, Illinois, without whom the show is possible. And as Jesse Sharkey and Lori Lightfoot will tell you, back home in Alton, they call him Mr. Money. Or
Dr. Money.
Weekend, everybody.
It's Dr. Money.
Sorry.
It's actually Dennis.
Just turn the car around. I won't just turn the car around.
I'm sick of it every year!
From the Illinois State Water Survey, the University of Illinois Prairie Research Institute, this is Illinois State climatologist Trent Ford.
I won't just turn the car around. I won't just turn the car around. I'm going to shut it off, I'm going to kick you out, and I'm going to make you walk home.
From the Illinois State Water Survey,